Well, hello again, Golden Eagles, and welcome to another edition of Southern Miss Stories. I'm Jim Call, Chief Communication Officer here at the University of Southern Mississippi. And today I'm at The Rock talking with former Golden Eagle quarterback and student athlete Nick Mullins. Now, of course, we all know Nick as a record-setting quarterback here at Southern Miss, but he really captured the attention of the nation as well when late last fall, as a member of the San Francisco 49ers, he put up one of the best debut performances for an NFL quarterback. So we're going to talk with Nick today a little bit about his time at Southern Miss, a little bit about his time at the 49ers, and a little bit about what's ahead. So I really hope you enjoy today's Southern Miss story. Well, Nick, thanks for taking the time to talk with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me out.
Yeah. So we're here looking out over the Rock. It's been a couple years, but what are some of your fondest memories of playing football here?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's kind of nice to sit back and just view the field and see, what you and your teammates did on the field. Man, I got a lot. I think my favorite memory here on this field at the Rock was on senior day. I missed 2 games prior to a concussion. It was an up and down year in my senior year, and the fact that we played so well and beat La Tech to finish out the regular season and go to a bowl game, that was one of the funner games that I was a part of here at the Rock.
And then finished up with the bowl victory.
I beat Louisiana Lafayette in the New Orleans Bowl, and so it was a great way to go out. And I'll always remember that. It was a lot of fun.
So take me back to your time at Southern Miss and some of the experiences, and maybe starting with coming to the university and what that was like your first few days, and and the development from then on.
So I was offered by Southern Miss very late in my recruitment. Took a visit. I was aware of the tradition that Southern Miss had. They've always been a winning program. And a lot of great players, of course, a lot of championships and great tradition. So I took the visit. I love the team. I love the guys. I love the coaching staff. And I took my visit. Got here in the summer. Spent a lot of late nights in Hattiesburg Hall my first summer. We used to basically sleepwalk over here at 5 in the morning for workouts. So going on to freshman year, obviously tough year. It's a start. Didn't win a lot of games, but we won the last one, and I got to play. So that was at UAB in 2013, and that was a sign of improvement, I guess you could say. And so we won that game, and then sophomore year just got a little bit better, but still struggled a little bit. And then junior year, everything came together. Scored a whole bunch of points, had a lot of really good teammates and playmakers, and senior year finished out strong as well. So the relationships I have with my teammates and just all the students and faculty that I met here at Southern Miss, it's incredible. I still talk to so many people from Southern Miss today, and it'll always be a big part of me, the black and gold will.
So I like your story so much because your career, I think, is really a real Southern Miss story in that it wasn't always smooth, and you had the bumps in the road, but then at the end of the day, emerged on the other side, all the records, finishing strong, winning bowl games. Tell me about those times, those bumps, and what you learned from them and how they help you in your career.
Yeah, it's been awesome to look back and just kind of see how you come to Southern Miss and you hear about hard work and just being tough and things like that, and then you fly through 4 years and you look back and you say, over time, I embody what all those traits really mean. And so that's why I still wear this bracelet. Actually, I wore it I wear it every single day, everywhere I go. It says "Rise to the top," and that's what Southern Miss taught me. You're never just going to jump to be the greatest right away, but if you just keep climbing and keep rising to the top, you'll eventually be pretty good. And I think that's kind of my story in a nutshell. And Southern Miss taught me all that.
And so it's only been 2 years, but a lot has changed for you professionally and personally. Talk to me a little bit about your career now with San Francisco and really especially the last 10 or 12 months.
Yeah, this last year was awesome. So coming out of college, going drafted to the San Francisco 49ers, and then you don't even know if you're going to make the team or not. Spent my rookie year on practice squad, and at that point I was kind of like just trying to make this NFL thing last as long as I can. It's farther than I guess I might have thought I would make it. And so just make it last for a while. And then coming into this year, the way the circumstances played out, I got an opportunity to play, and that's all you can ask for, an opportunity to play. We'll see how it goes, I guess. It's kind of how I was feeling, and but I was excited. I was so excited, and I got to end up starting 8 games, and hopefully that did a good job of boosting my career. It was a lot of fun and really cool opportunities out there.
So take me back to that night against Oakland, in the moment where obviously people in Hattiesburg expect you to play well, but not a lot of people around the country knew your name, and then over 3 hours, really introduced yourself to the country.
Yeah, I didn't really have a problem. I didn't really care if people knew me or not. I was just out there playing football like I always have. I was it was my first start, obviously, on Thursday night against the Raiders in San Francisco. I was pretty nervous leading up to the game. You don't know how it's going to go. You don't know what to expect. They say the game moves a lot faster, and it does. But it was awesome. Played really well. The team played really well. We got a much-needed win in front of the home crowd, and that kind of boosted my career and the next 8 weeks of me starting.
And so what was the day after that like, and how much did your life change?
Yeah, it was.
Overnight.
I definitely got a lot of attention. You look on TV, look on your phone. You start to realize spotlight's just a little bit bigger, I guess you could say. So it was awesome to see all the support, from a hometown in Hoover, and then here at Southern Miss, just see how many people actually do care and support. You're super thankful for all of that. And then, the day after the game, I'm trying to think. Guess it happened pretty fast, but I had a bunch of friends in town actually, and they were like telling me a bunch of stuff that I didn't really care about, because I'm trying to focus on, what's important for the next week and things like that. But it was fun. I had my friends, my family there, and we all had a lot of quality time together.
And I remember the post game, the call from another Southern Miss legend, Brett Favre, and that phone call on national TV, that must have been
that was really cool. Well, first of all, I'm sitting up there in studio with some pretty cool NFL legends, I guess you could say. So I'm already pretty excited about that. And then Brett gave a call into Coach Mariucci, and so that just shows the Golden Eagle connection. It's awesome to see Golden Eagle supporting each other. No matter what we're doing or going through, and so that's really cool. It's cool to have somebody like that on your side.
And in 2 years, a lot's changed personally for you too.
Yeah.
Just celebrated another anniversary, right?
Mm-hmm.
About to be a father for the first time?
Yeah, I met my wife. She was a cheerleader, Haley, here at Southern Miss. She's from Ocean Springs, and got married, moved out to San Francisco together, and now we're expecting our first child, a little boy. And very thankful for all the blessings of life so far.
And so, looking forward now, this time last year, as you were approaching the season, was a little different scenario for you. Talk about how you're preparing for this year.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is now I know that I can play and be pretty good in the league. I'm very excited about where my career's headed, but I'm competing for the backup spot in San Francisco, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully I can stay there as long as I can, and it's been great. It's been a great team organization, so I'd love to stay there for sure. And to prepare for that, I actually still live here in town and train at the Rock every day, and just grind like the old days, I guess you could say. So it's all going well.
Do you approach it mentally the same way though? Do you still feel like you have a lot to prove?
Yeah, definitely, always. Experience helps, but at the same time, you're proving yourself every single day. Every single day matters. And but I've kind of always treated it like that. I would say my mindset hasn't changed much. Just go, relax, focus, and control what you can control. And that's kind of how I've gotten to where I am today, and it's how I'm gonna keep elevating, I guess you could say.
What about some of the other Southern Miss guys in the league? Do you communicate with them? Do you talk with them?
Yeah, it's awesome to watch. All of our guys. We have a nice handful in the league.
And a lot of guys on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and I think that's the coolest thing is just watching guys that you saw kind of develop in college go through and really, get those opportunities in the NFL. Ito Smith, Jalen Richard, Rashad Hill, Cornell in Miami. Those are guys that they were really good in college, really good players in college, but you don't know how guys are going to react to the next opportunity, and they've all taken complete advantage of it. And so that's awesome, opportunities that, we never might have thought that we never would have had. And so I love seeing those type of stories. And I mean, we talk all the time, and I think we play a handful. I played Rashad a couple times, Rakeem Nunez, seen his face. We played against him, so it's always great playing against each other in the league. You always get to, you're kind of rivals now, I guess you could say. So we're all really supportive of each other, and it's great to see.
At Southern Miss, maybe some things off the field that you remember. What do you remember most about being a student here and living in Hattiesburg?
Yeah, well, I was a marketing major, and I think, I wasn't a big fan of school, I guess you could say, but we had some really fun classes over here in the new business building. And those were, we had a lot of different marketing projects where it was more, real world type things. And I remember we did a project with Mercury Pizza, trying to boost their business. And I love Mercury Pizza now. I go there all the time. So the teachers and faculty were great. They were, just taught me everything that I needed to know to prepare me for the real world. And then my memories just hanging out. I think it's not about where you're at, but the people that you make friends with. And our teammates, like I said, we still talk all the time. We have a group text with the O-line from 4 or 5 years back. We're always talking. Me and Casey Martin and Michael Thomas, the receivers, we all had a good connection. And I think my favorite memories are just hanging out on Saturdays at the pool in the summer. Just all the good relationships you form and the good times you have. It goes by fast, and you take it for granted while you're in it. But when you look back, it's awesome. A lot of cool memories.
What's the biggest challenge of being a student athlete?
I think the biggest thing is just time management. You come from high school, and it's not easy, but might be a little easier than college, obviously, and you obviously have a lot more freedom. If you don't want to do what you're supposed to do, you have the choice to do that, and so that's always a challenge, is managing your time. You'd like to study for a test, but you have 6 a.m. workouts, so you'd like sleep. Those are definitely the biggest challenges that student athletes face. And but the program did a great job of making us aware of the resources that we had to be elite in the classroom and on the field. And so that's definitely the biggest challenge.
What would your advice be to current student athletes?
Just work as hard as you can, and prioritize a little bit better than I did, I guess you could say. But no, just work as hard as you can, because it does matter. And I think the biggest piece of advice specifically is, the things that you're doing now, the habits you're creating now, are going to be the same habits that you have when you graduate. So make those good habits so you have a successful life after college.
So finish this sentence for me.
All right.
Southern Miss is?
Southern Miss is it's toughness, it's special, and it's a great place to become great, I guess you could say. Southern Miss just gave me all the opportunities in the world to go to the next level and to be successful. There's no reason why you can't succeed at a place like Southern Miss.
If you could say anything to the Southern Miss community about your experience, what would it be?
Oh man, there's a lot of people to thank. A lot of people that it was a pleasure to meet. But everywhere you go, you realize all the support that you had in college that you might not have realized, and all the support that I still do have. I just can't say thank you enough. Every Saturday, whether it was a good Saturday or bad Saturday, the fans showed up. It was one of the best atmospheres in Conference USA. And like I said, because of all the support, all the athletes have a chance to be great. So thank you.
And I always like to conclude by saying Southern Miss
to the top.